good afternoon or good morning, perhaps, if you are in our Alaska area. Want to welcome you all to this first session of this series, engaging our Native relatives in the healing process during substance use disorder treatment and beyond. And really excited to have my colleague and friend, Mr. Doug Widow, here to share some really important information. We've been meeting regularly leading up to this and have really come up with some. He and Wakiyan, our other speaker, who may not be able to join us today, but we're hoping to have him join us in subsequent sessions this month. We're going to meet every Monday for the month of August at this same time. So we're hoping we can see some of you back. It's really great to see so many familiar names and faces out there joining us today virtually from all around the country. So I want to just say how honored and appreciative I am of your continued support. And I just have a few introductory slides to go through. Then I'm going to turn the floor over to Doug, and he can introduce himself a bit more. We'll get started in a good way, and then we'll proceed. And we just have a few slides in the primary deck. We're really hoping to get some interaction from all of you. So please be prepared to unmute or use the chat feature to join us in this important conversation. Again, this is session one of engaging our Native relatives in the healing process during substance use disorder treatment and beyond. My name is Steve Steiney. I'm one of the managers here at the National American Indian Alaskan Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. I hope everybody is seeing the full screen. Somebody give me a thumbs up out there if you're seeing the full screen. Yes, okay, thank you. As most of you know, if you've been to a few of our events, this event is also brought to you by the National American Indian Alaskan Native Addiction Technology Transfer Center. We are located at the University of Iowa, and I'm broadcasting to you live from the University of Iowa campus here at the College of Public Health. We are part of a larger ATTC network made up of 10 regional centers around the country, a national Hispanic and Latinx center, as well as a ATTC network coordinating office located at the University of Missouri. Just checking the chat here. Oh, hello, everybody. Yes, I see some people checking in. That's wonderful. Great to see you all. This project is funded and supported by SAMHSA, and the content is developed by the presenters. And the opinions and ideas and concepts expressed today do not necessarily reflect the views or policies of SAMHSA HHS or the National American Indian Alaskan Native ATTC. We are going to try and provide some PDF links. I'll talk with Doug and Wakiyan about what we're able to share with you. We're also recording this event, so we'll include a link to this in a follow-up email, and you can rewatch or share that link with this recording with a colleague or friend that wasn't able to be here today. We are also going to offer 1.5 NADAC approved CEUs. We'll offer one of those CEUs for each webinar, all 4 of them. So you can request those at the time you receive a follow-up email from us post-event. And lastly, we'll have an opportunity for you to complete a short survey. This survey is completely confidential. It only takes about 5 minutes, and we've added a couple of short answer questions so that we can hear feedback from you in your own words. We really value feedback we get from you if it's positive or constructive in some way to help us help us improve on what we're doing. So we'd love to hear from you. You're not obligated to fill that survey out, but we would love to hear back from you. Before we get started today, I want to take a few moments to acknowledge the land and pay respect to the Indigenous nations whose homelands were forcibly taken and inhabited. Please take a few moments to read this land acknowledgement that was created by 3 former members of our team, Ella and Keely Driscoll and Mr. Sean Bear from the Winnebago and Meskwaki nations, respectively. Thank you. Well, without further ado, I want to introduce my colleague and friend, Mr. Doug Whittle. Doug is from the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, and I have gotten to know him pretty well over the last year and a half as we've worked on some projects together and done some workshops and trainings collaboratively. So I'm really honored to have Doug here with us today. He brings so much knowledge and experience and wisdom to the table and to the discussion, and it's just a real honor. I've learned a lot from him over this last 18 months. So, Doug, welcome, and really happy to have you here. I will mention Wakiyan Peta, also of Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, will join us hopefully today. If not today, we hope to see him later on in the series. So he's traveling today and was going to try and drop in if he had an opportunity. So we'll kind of keep an eye open for him. And I got to make sure I disable the wait room here too, so we can get other folks in. I just about forgot to do that. So there we go. I know we have someone joining a little bit later. I want to apologize for that. I got to disable the wait room. So I hear an open mic. Charles, I'm going to mute you. No offense, but I'm glad of those of you that joined a little later able to join us. It's my fault for not disabling the wait room. So really happy to have you all here. I want to welcome everyone to the first session of engaging our Native relatives in the substance use disorder treatment process and beyond. Those of you joining a little late, I'm Steve Steiny. I think I know some of you, recognize a few names that have come in a little bit later, and we have Doug Whittle here as well. So Doug, I'm going to go ahead and I too will be just commenting and trying to contribute as well to Doug's conversation as we move through the conversation today. So I am going to let's see. There we go. Was I not sharing, folks? I thought I had this slide was sharing earlier, but Doug, was I sharing earlier? Was my screen up earlier? Okay, it must have come down when I went to open up the weight room. Well, again, I'm going to take these down now, just so we can, if it'll let me stop sharing here. There we go. Oh, sometimes Zoom just has a mind of its own, and you have to be ready to roll with it, whatever it decides to throw your way. I'm going to let Doug have the floor, introduce himself, and get us started off in a good way. While he's doing that, I'm going to bring up our primary slide deck. So, Doug, you have the floor.
I'm Doug Happy. No mas peg na ke oiate mata ha. No mini koshu oiate mata. Greetings, my relatives. Thank you all for coming on. I'm originally from Cheyenne River, a little place called Red Scalpel, 6 miles east of Red Scalpel. I currently live in Santee, Nebraska, here as a outpatient, intensive outpatient counselor. Been doing this for about 4 years now, I think. The first thing that we do as Lakota people or Native people, we do a prayer. So I'll say a quick prayer, and then I'm going to do a guided imagery, and then we'll get underway. So let's pray. What's on Kashla, particular what's on? We all could come up with that energy. And call me Titak with a you ya woke who chose on chalk here. Not doing that now, Titak with now. We are now, we check into a Marcus going out to you are woke who chose on nature up. And what kinds of picks up just a change. Some of the work that we do here in this program, when I first started here, we were doing a lot of matrix stuff, but I was trying to convince our people that we need to kind of address the needs of our people, and so they allowed me to use culture. So and that's what we do here. But one of the things I want to share with you that we do here. So if you got a chance to put both feet on flat on the floor, and try to get in a relaxed position. And take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out. And if it'll help you to focus, close your eyes and take another deep breath in through your nose. Exhale out. One more. If your eyes closed, I'm going to share a story with you. Long ago, there was a lady that was taken to a different tribe, and she was living there. Her husband had other wives, but she had children from this man. But she noticed that all the other wives were jealous of her. So she told the other wives she wanted to leave. So one of the other wives to leave. And she would only travel at nighttime with her children. Because during the day, her husband was looking. They were traveling, and it started to snow, got cold. Came to a river there. She was real close to her family's. She got to the river, and yeah, 3 of them. One was 5, one was 3, and the other one was an infant. Took the oldest child across, and the oldest one was trying to follow her. So she tied that child to the tree back and brought the 3-year-old, tied that one to the tree, got the infant, made it across. She got back to camp. She was soaking wet. She got the kids safe. They're safe. Thermia, she passed away. So what she did was she gave up herself so her children will live. Open your eyes slow. Ja, Impa, Yamni. Take a look around, make sure you're back. Before we go any further, I'd ask that you put in the chat box, tell me 3 or 2 things. First one is, what's your favorite dish or food? And tell me your favorite color. And this will help you to make sure and come back. I've asked one of my here we don't call our clients. We call them relatives because that's what they are. I asked the relatives one of these questions, and he says favorite color is crimson aloe vera. I don't even know what color that was. All right, now you guys are making me hungry. All right, take a look around, make sure you're back completely. Before we show this video, with that story, usually in all native culture, language. In that story, you know, we sacrifice so our children will live. And usually, usually it's still that way today, but we forget to take care of ourselves. And so remember to take care of yourself so you can help others. A lot of times we don't do that. We're going and going, helping others, and we get burnt out. We get you know, all this other stuff. But remember to take care of yourself. That's very important. The horses teach us that. After you're done riding that horse will roll. It'll stand back up. It'll shake itself and go back to what it does best, is eating. So, all right, I'll open it up. Anybody wants to comment or ask a question about that story before we play this video?
Feel free to unmute or post something in the chat. Tammy Birdhorse Doug says they have equine therapy program where she's at.
That's good.
And but yeah, feel free to unmute. Comments about that story or any other thing. So we want to keep this open and interactive as much as we can. Oh, yeah, Tasha R is asking can you explain the point of the story, Doug?
The story is when it's told in the language, it's a lot better. But when told in English, story was this lady gave up herself. So sacrifice and sacredness go hand in hand, especially in our in culture. And so as we try to help each other, you know, she gave up her life for that. Steve, I'm gonna check somebody's. Okay, so and those are some of the things that is unheard of today, as far as putting the children first. In our culture, that's what we did. We put our children first to help them, and basically this lady gave up her life for them to live. All right.
Okay. This video runs about 5 minutes or so, and I know Doug had me watch it. I watched it twice. The first time I had to pause it a couple times, but the second time I just pushed through it. It's pretty emotional. So, Doug, you want to just share the title there? I think folks can see it.
Our spirits don't speak English.
Okay, I'm going to run it. And hopefully I've got the audio set, so you should be able to hear this with us here. Okay, here we go.
My name is Andrew Windy Boy. I'm a Chippewa Cree. I did 2 boarding schools, one in Wapton Indian School in Wapton, North Dakota, and the other one is Flandreau Indian School in Flandreau, South Dakota. Mid 60s to early 70s took me to the boarding school where I wasn't allowed to talk my native tongue or practice my native ways. Numerous times they'd put on this big huge white cone, put on there, it says dunce. I didn't know what it meant. I didn't know English. They put it on me, make me wear it all over. Kids would laugh at me. They took me away from all of that and punished me for talking that. It was my first language. I didn't know any other language. So whenever I talk, it came out. Cree would come out, and whenever I talk, I get hit. I got hit so much I lost my tongue. I lost my native tongue. The only thing I remember was my Indian name. Which is Senukihu, means old man eagle. That's the only Cree I knew. They beat me every day. They beat me. They cut off my hair, made me kneel in front of the door where everybody come in. Everybody make fun of me when they come by me, rub my head and laugh at me because I was talking. They caught me talking. I hope someday somebody will hear me. I hope nobody has to go through this. We have to have our own language. Because what we do when we talk to our spirits, they don't understand English. They look at you, you'll be talking in English. What are you saying? They'll be saying that in Cree. Like, no, you didn't know what I just said. That was a hard time in my life. I'll always remember it. For that white man, it's a terrible shame for him to be treating people like this. Because we are a people. We just need to be accepted.
Okay. That was pretty tough to watch, especially hearing a native man paying attention to his body. I wanted to share that because that's what we deal with on a daily basis. However dressed. And one of the first things before I want to get some things straight. I should have explained before I started that guided imagery story about that lady. We as Lakota people, we come from a matriarchal society. So the women are the boss. They're the ones that run things. And so, you know, another thing with that story is be grateful for your mother, your grandmother, you know, because they sacrifice a lot and are not being that way. But one of the things that, you know, before I started that story is that we have the left brain is the linear side. The right brain is the creative side, the language. So before I started that story, I should have had you switch to your right side of your brain. And you could tell if you have a hard time switching. And most people, they try to teach the language from the left side of your brain. That by doing that, it's like trying to put a circle in a square. And so, real briefly, put your right hand over your midsection and put your left on top of your head. Okay, now go a circular motion on your midsection and tap the top of your head. Okay, now switch. Okay, and switch back. Some people can do it. Some people have a hard time. That is using your left side of your brain to your right. And most people are just left brain and so they're one-sided. Like this guy on this video, he went in to school thinking with his right and got shamed because he didn't know how to use his left. And so there's a lot of trauma there. And that trauma gets passed down. And so if we're you know, a lot of times we'll have a hard time being in school and college, or because of that trauma. And it's not what the trauma was, it's what happened inside, how we internalize how they shamed us or whatever. And so we'll always look down upon ourselves or judge harshly on ourselves because we couldn't speak English correctly. And today it works the other way too, where people are trying to learn the language. The ones that got shamed will shame them. And so the reason why I wanted to share that video is because that's what comes into our programs. And yeah, that trauma is to soothe that trauma is to, get high, drink, all that stuff. And if we don't take a look at that trauma, then we're just treating the symptom. And so we always have to be mindful of our people when they come in. We have to meet them where they're at. So like little children, the babies, the infants, they can't self-regulate, but we can. And so, but if you really take a look at that, by them not trying to be self-regulate, but but they're paying attention to their body. If they need to cry or whatever, they'll do that. But later on, we'll get these messages: men don't cry, stuff like that. Or growing up, if you came from the boarding school, they'll say things like, well, if you want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about, But those are all the stuff that we're dealing with that come into our office, but we don't really take a look at it because, the first thing, if we're going to get paid, first thing we got to do is we got to do an intake, type them in. So as we're doing that, typing it in, asking questions, our relatives that come in, they're going to feel that, hey, whatever they're doing on that computer is more important than I am. That's the feeling that they're getting. And so right away, and anytime there's any kind of trauma or whatever, there's a disconnect. When that disconnect happens, that's when, alcohol, drugs, all those things come into play. And what we do culturally here is when they're ready, we'll reconnect them. So like we use horses here too. And what we'll do is we'll take them in that pen, and that horse will connect with them. The horse will give four cues. And then when he does that last one, putting his head to the ground, they'll stop, turn away, then that horse will come up. Dealing with a horse like that, I'd rather ride a horse connected with it than one that I forced him to. So the main thing is to turn away and have them connect and have them come up. So we not only connect with our relatives, but start to connect with animals, the earth, ourselves. Learn to love yourself. And so one of the some of the objectives are participants will learn about Indigenous ways of engagement with their relatives, and that's one. The other ones that we do is Nahiki Chopi, they call it. Is calling their spirit back 4 times. And what I usually do is we're always waiting, you know, it's good to it's good to love each other and help each other, but we don't always have somebody around us when we need somebody. So we have to learn to take care of ourselves. And one of the big things is that as Native people, or anybody with trauma, we're waiting for somebody to come and save us. Somebody come and save us. But we have to save ourselves. That means by using that, you know, what I do here is I use that guided imagery. I go back and I'll take ourselves back to where that trauma happened. We'll go in and bring them back to today. And then we'll call their spirit back 4 times. And that's that to have that better understanding of that culture component of connecting with others. We must connect with them first, and then say, you know, example would be, you know, hey, I gotta put this information in the computer, you know, and you know, because when they're coming into us, you know, they're at their lowest, and there's no way we should be treating them any less. I know doesn't know about the boarding school or didn't go through it, they're not going to understand where we're coming from. And so the other one is to give strategies for engagement, and like that in a clinical setting. Like, so one of the first things, like I myself been sober, September would be 36 years, I think. And when I first went to treatment, there was a guy, and I still remember this today after all them years. He says, "What's a great guy like you doing? Or what's a great guy like you doing in a place like this?" You know, just that statement, you know, made me not only feel good about who I am, but it felt very important, you know, to me at that time. And that's why I still remember it today. You know, and that's it's been 36 years ago. I was 24 years old when I went in there. And I still remember that statement. Other than that, whatever was said there, a blur. But I remember that. And the other thing is participants will have an opportunity to share their own experience and practices based on evidence of the process of engagement. So a lot of this stuff, you know, is not in no handbook. We had to come up with these because it wasn't working. They came in, they were looking for that, you know, in our language is you know, ushlikicha, to have compassion for the ones that need help, you know. And so, and all this stuff that we use here, I didn't come up with it. It was already, our ancestors already came up with it. And it worked, what we started doing. here. So yeah, there's what I was talking about right there. So take a little time to read that.
If you're comfortable, you could even post some answers to some of the questions that Doug raised in this document. We could probably spend an entire session talking about some of these, Doug.
Unmute and share something if they want.
Yeah, which is there a question of those? There's probably 5 questions there that I see. Which one would you like the audience to maybe give some consideration to?
Hi, this is Andrea from Hopi Behavioral Health. I just have some comments.
Hey, Andrea.
This is very real to our community right now. In July, we lost about 7 young people to cirrhosis, suicide. We got hit really heavily. And in reflecting with some of the individuals, you know, they all acknowledge that we need to do a better job of in being inclusive of our young adults, because we're all the recipients of some of the comments you made, that the harshness, you know, the trauma impacts from either boarding school or when this time in August is when our pueblos were gathering together to revolt against the Spanish Empire. And around this time is when the Pueblo revolt happened. And there was long, devastating impacts. And we're just now starting to be more open in talking about those impacts. But you know, some of the today issues are older individuals that are withholding knowledgeable teaching, not welcoming our young people into our kivas, being very selective what they want to share and who they want to include. And so as a result, you know, a lot of our young people are struggling with acceptance and belonging. We just finished a Gona in one of the villages last weekend, and it was very powerful. I'm hoping that it'll have a ripple effect and will encourage we have 12 villages on Hopi, that it will encourage other villages to be more open in holding a Gona in their community. So thank you for sharing. Just the words and the topics were very touching because we're dealing with these issues today. I mean, we have been, but more so because of the deaths that we had in July. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's in our communities, especially those ones that know the culture, know the language, and it's sad that these are happening. This man that spoke, you know, he's in another part of a video. He's dancing, and I think he's showing he's teaching a language, I think.
Yes.
So we can get you know, through our healing, and one of the things with that, whatever trauma, like I said, for myself, my parents both were in boarding school. So growing up, you know, I thought, you know, the abuse that I received, I thought that, you know, that they didn't love me. And so by coming here and teaching culture, language, I thought that you know, didn't love me, maybe, you know, so I would help them, and so they needed me, and so that was compensating for that. But today, I would put a boundary up, so put some limitations on it. Teach anybody who wants to learn, because what we're doing is we're planting that seed, and they would continue on. One of my relatives that come through the program, she did the 32 weeks, but it's still coming back. What she's doing is she's learning the language. The other day she was texting me, "How do you say this?" And she wrote it out. And so I told her that instead of saying it like that, I should name the river, and that, so you're describing where you're at, and how the fog was beautiful, sun was coming, and so once that was said, you know, she grasped it, and so the language is almost like a idiom, you know, like it's raining cats and dogs. But if you try to translate it, it kind of comes close to English. That's why when I told that story, it's better told in a language so you can describe, you know, whatever that was happening. And so you kind of have a better understanding, and not only a better understanding, but you could almost feel, just like that video, like that guy was talking about, you know, how they made fun of him. We could feel that because people made fun of us for whatever, trying to learn our language or whatever. So today in our groups, what I try to teach is don't take everything personal. And that's really hard to do, to try to train your body, your mind, your spirit, not to take those things personal. Because with forgiveness, there's, if you bumped into somebody, you could say, hey, I'm sorry. And each time it gets harder. And that last forgiveness is forgiving the unforgivable. Because if we don't do that, and it's not for that person, it's for us. Toxic. Because in our language, that Wakiyan, the energy, it's good and it's bad. It could be good and it could be evil. It could kill you. It could save your life. And that's all inside of us. And if we have that that good in us, we're but if somebody says something, that good can go away. We could go to thinking bad. They're on the spot. And so by our relatives coming in for help, we really have to take care of ourselves, because when they come in, they could see what you're struggling with, especially with grief. In September, I lost my wife, and it's been a struggle each day. But as it goes, I had a check on me, and he was going through grief too, and he says, "Today it gets better." We could never get over that loss, but we could taking care of it. It does get better. So, where we at with our slide?
I was going to, we've got the objectives covered. And one of the things I was going to share too, and there's been some great comments too in the chat. Nora C shared some of her experience, and Jacelyn also shared. And I know Nora's not feeling well, so she may not share with her voice, but she had said that she believed our ancestors lived like this. Unfortunately, she was not raised like this. She was raised in a non-native community, but she lives like this now after hanging out with her elders who taught her this. And her mentor passed on, but she lives by what she was taught. And she said it's hard to find like-minded people now, still a lot of shame and bitterness. So thank you for sharing that, Nora. And I don't know, Jacelyn, if you wanted to unmute and share what you had put in the chat.
Aloha, everyone. This is Jason. Yeah, aloha. Mahalo for everything. What I wanted to share is that the way that I was taught, or the way I was raised by my parents, by my kupuna, is the same way they were taught by their kupuna. And kupuna for us is our elderly. Or those who are our makua, our parents, or those who are older than us, right? We are taught to serve one another without question, to just do. And so it comes naturally where I don't need to be told what to do or to serve others, but to naturally do it. But when it comes to that part, is that we not share just serving, but we're sharing our knowledge, our mana'o, our values, our roots, deep into our culture. And so I know that many of us, many of the children today do not have that same upbringing as I have. And so it's our responsibility to teach them the ways of how we're taught by our kupuna to serve and help one another. That will you have a better understanding of those you're serving or helping, because you live that values, or you live that roots into your life, or it becomes part of who you are. And so I feel that when we're working with our native ohana, our cousins, our friends, that we are doing it with the love of our kupuna, or the heart of our kupuna that have left this legacy for us to continue. Because who we are, it becomes part of our tradition. And then we share that to the children today, so they too will be able to help their native cousins. And not just our native cousins, but everyone who we serve, because here I'm mixed. I'm part Hawaiian. I'm also Chinese and a little bit of Caucasian. So I have to also share that to all my other, parts of who I am too. So mahalo.
Good.
I was just going to say, Arlen also shared something in the chat that's it's really, I think, Doug, if you can see that, you've talked about this with me quite a bit, about learning the language is the key. And without the language, the culture doesn't have the same meaning.
Yeah. So, like an example, like I was telling that story, if I told that story in that language, then you would feel that message, and then you would understand where that's coming from. But if you put it to English, it'll lose that context. And you won't, if you wasn't paying attention and really following that story, then you won't have an understanding or idea of what I was talking about. So, like in the language of I was talking to the young ones or the people in general, at this time, about that grief, because a lot of us are feeling it, that grief, and because every day, especially in the Indian country, especially in South Dakota, all the radio stations, how many people are still grieving today? There's 10 years ago, and they're still having a memorial basketball tournament or something still playing on the radio. So it's all and not only that, but just like that lady said, that they lost a lot of people in their community, and that's in every community. So at this time, before, if it's okay, I'll do another guided imagery, and then we'll start. How much time we have left?
We've got about 20 minutes, and
Okay. I'll do another guided imagery, and then I'll open it up to conversate, because one of the main things is that we want to get across today is that our people are coming in with all this grief and don't know where they fit in. But when we come to them, you know, are we putting our assessments, you know, are we explaining that to them? So that you know, just like an example is if if I was out with my son, you know, he's 11, and he dropped something or didn't do something right or whatever, and then I would get mad at him for that. You know what? That message that he's getting is that whatever he dropped or whatever is more important than him. And so when our relatives come in, you know, it should be, we should treat them like, you know, like how we want to be treated, or, you know, to be grateful that they're coming in trying to get help. And so with that, well, we'll make sure your feet are flat on the floor. Take a deep breath. Time. On. Man and a woman, they did everything together. They made their buckskin clothes. They combed each other's hair. They swam together. Everything. And one day they were crossing a creek or river. Horse reared up and she fell off. She hit her head and died instantly. So this man, he was broken. He moved his camp away from the people, sat by himself on top of this hill. And as a year passed, he was sitting outside and he noticed somebody walking towards his camp. And just before they went underneath that hill, out of sight, he noticed, he recognized that walk. So he stood up. 5-10 minutes later, a person came over the hill. Saw it was his companion. He drops everything, runs to her, hugs her and holds her, cries, says, I really miss you. Says, good to see you. Gosh, what, if your hair is not combed, you're all dirty, dress has holes. He says, why are you this way? She wipes his tear and she says, I'm this way because you're that way. Wancha, Mpa. So with that grief, we could get to that point of not taking care of ourselves. And so in that chat, write down those same 2 questions to make sure you're back. And then I'll talk a little bit about that story. And then we'll go into some conversation.
Does anybody have any comments or thoughts about this story? I know Doug shared this one with me before. I know we talked about this after his wife passed away, and that's what I thought about was her and the courage and the humility that I've seen Doug show over this past year as he's moved through his grief, and really appreciate that, Doug. So, any other comments though about this story as it relates to grieving or to engagement with your patients or your relatives? I'm still learning. I know there's a lot of good comments coming in to the chat as well. Appreciate you guys adding to the conversation. Yes, I agree, Arlen. I appreciate your comment there. I hope Doug's able to see that. One of the things that we wanted to put out to the audience today was to have a discussion about what engagement means and what it means to you in the work that you do as direct service providers in the behavioral health field, particularly working in substance use disorder and mental health fields with Native relatives. And yeah, Brian makes a good point. Lack of connection, people not asking for help. Yeah. What does engagement mean? I think that's something that that Doug and I have been collaborating on and trying to come up with some definitions. And we really want to turn that question to the group. What does it mean? And Doug has touched on why it's important, particularly working with Native relatives. And when should it happen? So that first question, what does it mean? Maybe if you are comfortable posting an idea about connection or engagement and what that means. Yeah, Amy's posting something about the story. Yeah. For people to feel seen even in the midst of their challenges. Yes. What does engagement mean to everyone? If you want to unmute and just if you have a few words that you might describe what engagement means. Oh, there's some great things coming in the chat, Doug. And maybe these can be questions that you ask yourself as we move through this first of 4 sessions. We may come back to this question. And why is engagement important? And lastly, when should it happen? Anybody have thoughts on this or?
Love bacon.
I see, yes, it's a pledge, says Karen. I like that. Lee St. John is still thinking about his favorite foods, I think. I appreciate that. Food can be very engaging, that's for sure. Engagement, Contessa says engagement is showing interest in helping the person or people. Yes. Yes. Engagement, getting connected to something meaningful. Yes. Relating, listening, empathy. Oh, those are great, Jason. Nora says, sometimes we lose part of our soul when we lose someone. We might want to go with them, but we have to be grateful for those who remain with us and engage with our loved ones to remain connected, mind, body, and spirit. Wow. That's beautiful, Nora. And Jacelyn says, engagement can be described as our ancestral knowledge grounded in the relationship between people and the land. The way we learn compassion, humility, and is that ikipono? To know, to feel, to understand. Wow, that's, oof, I'm gonna have to think about this. Valina says engagement means to be present in a whole way with the ones who need the support and compassion of helping others. Yes. Doug and I have talked about being in the moment with our relatives as we connect with them. I had a chance to go down and see Doug last fall, and I got to drink some water with him and go into the Inipi, and I was so moved when several of his clients or relatives arrived to sweat with us. And I remember Doug saying to me, these are the ones that continue to recover and continue to walk the good path because they're connected. Just really stayed with me. Very powerful. Contessa says again, it should happen as the work and goals unfold. Yes. Engagement is an investment in something important. That's Nora. Nora's got some food recipes. They're happening right here in real time. Ruth, this is great. Ruth says, trust, listening, giving all our attention to the person we are helping. We're showing respect. Engagement is connection, trust, humor, reciprocal, and space. I love that, Colin. Contessa goes on and says, I was told recently that those left here still have something to do for people with people. And Kersha says, cultural humility. Wow, this is great. Yes, Colin, you're on a roll. Either you have a seat at the table or you're on someone's menu. This is why engagement is important. That's good. Wow, Doug, that's I'll have to save this this chat so we can look at it later. A lot of great. Really appreciate everyone's comments. This is really this is what we were hoping for.
One of the things I would like to share with, and maybe would be my last comment for this session, is as Native people, things is that especially from the trauma and for us using, but some of us still have gifts, whether we're using or not, and that's to try to put that in English is like some of us are very more sensitive than others, so we can pick up certain things or feel certain things, and most people that go through they're usually sent to do a mental eval. And so there we don't want to share too much, because you have to realize that even at that point, all our medicine people, they all got taken away because of their gifts and put in an insane asylum. And so we don't want to share those things. And that makes us even more to shut down and isolate and disconnect, because we can't share. But once you become, the ones that come here, I teach them to be able to share with each other, to help each other. And so that's, some of them became best friends, and they're sharing that kind of stuff with each other, and they're not alone anymore. And those are some of the things that, when you're writing a treatment goal and stuff like that, those are all not going to come right away, because that trust has to come. But if there's that connection, see, that horse brings that connection a lot faster, and so they could start to work on themselves. And so I have a whole, probably about 7 of them that, or more, that graduated but still come to sweat, still come to group. A lot of them are doing their own ceremonies now, and that's awesome. So I couldn't sit back and wallow my grief too much, because they were doing their ceremony, and I want to go and support and help them, so I had a busy summer and doing those things. So it's awesome to make those connections and make more as we go. So thank you guys for listening. And if anybody else wants to unmute and share something, you're welcome to.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Widow. I just wanted to say I appreciate, your knowledge, your expertise, understanding of traditional culture and teachings, and implementing it into that, this behavioral health, mental health, part of healing. And I saw some of your other past sessions and really enjoyed it. You know, I had a lot of teachers, a lot of elders, mentors, grandpas, grandmas, uncles, and a lot of them passed away over about the last like 5 to 10 years. A lot of them passed on, and they shared a lot of knowledge, teachings with me, and I try to pass it on, you know, to other people, and you know, still kind of processing some of it, but I like what you're sharing to this, you know, behavioral health, mental health, IHS, you know, all of our treatment centers, people that do this work, because it's really important that these traditional teachings are included in that healing, in that recovery, in that finding that balance and wellness. And I enjoy hearing everybody's input, you know, when you ask those questions, hear what everyone has to say, their thoughts, their teachings. You know, it's this is a good circle right here. And I do a lot of this work like 24/7, and I had to, like, you know, find my own balance and wellness in my life. You know, doing this work, running ceremonies, sweat, talking circles, healing circles, and then taking care of my own wellness too. So that was challenging for a while, but I think I'm doing pretty good now. You know, keeping my own balance in check and things like that. And so I just wanted to thank you and everybody for their input. You know, it's good to hear these positive words. You know, it's a lot of negative things out there that we see every day. So hearing some good stories, you know, the story of the grief, the healing that you shared, sharing that music, you know, that flute music. I like singing with the drum and using the flute, and, you know, sharing those ways of healing. And I wanted to thank you for doing that today. It made the story, like you said, you know, that part of your brain, the left and the right, it made the story kind of like resonate, you know, more, and kind of lock in, I guess. Like for me, that's how I learn that side. When I hear a story or when I hear a song, learn a new song or something like that, you know, kind of locks into that library on that creative side of my brain. So I remember when I didn't know any songs, you know, I didn't know. I was a DJ, and I DJed for years and years. I knew all thousands of songs. I knew the words to all kinds of songs, but I didn't know any Indian songs, any native songs. I could dance to them, but I didn't know the songs. And I finally, you know, wanted to learn. I heard songs that I really liked, and I wanted to learn. So I prayed about it, told me to pray about it, sit down at the drum, go out there and learn. And so I started that. And then after I learned that first song, you know, in that headspace, after I learned the first song, other songs started coming. I'm still learning songs, you know. I love to learn different songs, all types of songs, and sing and share them in groups, and the work that I do, and also just in my personal life. But yeah, thanks for sharing that. That was really cool. I liked how you did that. And just blessings to everybody out there doing that work. It's good. Good. You're helping people. You're part of the healers that are out there, circle of healers. And you know, like they said, keep taking care of yourself too. I hope that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for chiming in on the road there. And I just want to remind everyone we're going to continue this conversation next Monday. We've got Doug with us next Monday. Hopefully, we'll get Wakiyan in to join in the conversation as well. But I really appreciate everybody staying on and being part of the conversation today. And a big thanks to, of course, to Doug for leading this webinar today. Thank you again, everyone. See you next week.
Hey, when everybody heads up, I wanted to ask you something.
you.